Hello, I'm Daniela, and I want to talk about my experience summiting my first 14er Pikes Peak via Barr Trail. I wish I had more time to train for it because it was kind of an impromptu thing. Growing up in the Midwest, especially in the Kansas City area and in Omaha, Nebraska, I did not have much exposure to the idea of a 14er. I got into hiking because when I moved out to Sacramento, California, it was just a cool pastime to do. And because we had a cross country trip to the DC area, the DMV area, Alexandria, Virginia, we stopped at Arches National Park and many other parks on our way back. And it made me realize that I really loved the idea of hiking in the vast outdoors. But as any starter, I start with basic trails. So I have been hiking technically since 2019, but doing, I would say, real hikes didn't come till about the last year or two. And I've hiked in Hawaii, Alaska. In Alaska, though, it was simple trails at Denali National Park, and in Hawaii, it was like the hike to the beach on the green sands, which is good experience, I would say, as a hiker because you get vast terrain experience. So the more terrain you get used to, whether it's forest, scree, hiking during various seasons, like when it's winter, summer, in the heat, can really prepare you for a mountain ascent because mountain ascents are no joke. You may start off with very warm weather at the bottom, especially if you're in the summertime, and by the time you get up to the top, it could have snow at the top of the peak and it could be like 30 or 40 degrees even though you're there on a 90-degree day. So that's one cool thing I like about mountain ascents. It's also very symbolic as well because when you do it, it's really a test of patience, endurance, which is one of the reasons why I chose to embark on this journey with hiking up to Pikes Peak. But the truth is, the reason I did it was because I wanted to do the San Jacinto hike, Cactus to Clouds, which is one of the toughest day hikes. And I know it's kind of ambitious to want to jump to it when I was mainly doing more simple hikes. And the reason I even got into the simple hike in a way that made me want to do it was that I was visiting my great, I'm not sure how many greats, grandfather's grave on my mom's side for Memorial Day. And I had never visited before, being new to St. Joe, where my maternal family had some roots, because I had just got married, so I moved in with my husband. And I saw his grave in Sunbridge Cemetery, and a lot of it is pretty overgrown. There's been a lot of grave theft and robberies, and we saw this forested path behind the graveyard, and I thought it was really cool, so we went into the woods and decided we'd come back and hike Sunbridge. And then we figured out it connected to the river bluff, and we hiked Krug Park, and we connected all the circuits. Now, while it does not have the same elevation gain as Barr Trail, it was good practice because the bluffs can be slippery. The bluffs do have some of the feeling that your legs get when you're walking on the uneven terrain, especially at the beginning of Barr Trail. It starts off a little smoother, it's more steps, and then it gradually, as you get to Barr Camp, you're now at, I believe it's 9,000 feet, or is it 10,000 feet? And you start to get more of a rooted path, which I see a lot at like Weston Bend State Park, which is about 45 minutes from St. Joe, about an hour from Kansas City. And you also have like that feel, because I've been on the part of Appalachian Trail in Smoky Mountain, where there's a lot of roots there. And then as you get past A-frame, that's where the real grueling part begins, because now you're going to go above tree line. So when you go above tree line, all of the trees disappear. This is where you could see snowfall, and this is where you're most exposed to the sun. So I didn't really think about it, but because it was cooler up there, I should have been wearing a hat. I did not wear a hat. I should have worn sunglasses because that sun exposure messed me up. I didn't notice it until a few days later. I've never been sunburned in my life. I honestly didn't think it was possible with the degree of melanin I had, but I experienced it. And when I first got off of the mountain, again, I seemed pretty normal. The next day I noticed a little redness and discoloration on my nose. And then like by day 2, I noticed my forehead was super dry. Thankfully, by the time I got home, because I was only like a 3-day trip, I had a peeling forehead. and it was scary. I was like, what is happening to me? But it was fine. I just grew a new forehead, basically. So next time when I do Cactus to Clouds or any hike that's going to take me up close to the sun, it is called Sun Mountain for a reason by the Ute people, or Tavakavi, I will wear a hat and some sunglasses, because my eyeballs also, after that experience, felt really dim when I went inside. Like it's like having pain in them, I couldn't see. And I figured out that I might have gotten a little mild sunburn in my eyes, but the eye drops really helped a lot. Another thing is, it's so important to eat during your hike, because when you're hiking continuously, especially over like a certain amount of miles in time, so we spent about 12 hours making that trip up there. And so that's a lot of walking time. So you have to fill your body. You're burning a lot of calories hiking. And hiking at elevation or a grade is going to burn even more. So we were constantly doing those like gels, those energy gels, some caffeinated, some uncaffeinated. We were also taking like electrolyte tablets, as well as drinking electrolyte drinks and water, tons of water. Hydrate, please, because dehydration is another reason a lot of people fail or injure or hurt themselves on these mountain ascents as well. Making sure we were pacing ourselves. I feel like I slowed us down because my husband is more of a power walker. He can walk, and I was kind of letting others go past us because I can be kind of slow. Like, that was a wake-up call to me, even though I knew from my Apple Watch that I need to really work on my VO2 max. So something I've been doing since the trip is trying to run more, strength train, so I can have a stronger VO2 max. So when I do other elevation gain hikes, I won't have to stop as much, but that could be an indication. Also, altitude makes it worse. So some people get AMS, which is acute mountain sickness, and they find it hard to breathe. They may get dizzy, and what's happening is it can progress into stages where it even gets to their lungs. But one of the first stages is like a headache and nausea. One of the girls we met on the trail said this was her second 14er, but her first 14er she said she threw up. That's really common with altitude sickness. I know when I went to Rocky Mountain National Park, I wasn't trying to do a mountain then, but it was snowing, and I remember my mom turning around because she says that she was starting to feel kind of woozly. So altitude sickness is real, because many of us don't live as high of elevation as some of these places in Colorado have. So they do recommend acclimating, spending maybe like camping out the night before to make sure that you're ready, as well as going on maybe light walks. What we did, since we literally did it the next day after we flew in, and we're from a place that's really low in elevation, is we went to Woodland, and that was about, I think, a town of about 9,000 feet, and we went to the Lavelle Gulch, and that's about 10,000 feet, and we walked and we trail ran, and that helped open up our lungs and get us acclimated. I mean, it would have been better if we spent more time, but that helped. So we didn't really notice too many symptoms of altitude sickness. My footwear also was a problem for me. So I wore trail runners a lot of times when I did my practice hikes in Missouri. And I did also hike up to like 13 or 14 miles, which is the amount of miles that we did up to Barr Trail. We thought about going down, but by then we were tired and the storms were rolling in. So we chose to take the cog down, which is a good first time thing. Some people also split it up into two parts. So they'll go up to Barr Camp, which is, I believe, 6.5 miles from the start, and then they camp overnight, and then they continue on. We decided we were going to just do it straight, because if we're going to do Cactus to Clouds, we're going to do the same thing, and it's a little longer. So making sure you hike that amount of miles as well, and know you're capable of that many miles before doing it. So before Cactus, I got to get my hiking up to 22 miles. And it actually will be more, because you have to hike back down to the tram for Cactus to Clouds. But doing all of that really prepared us. And I would say, because I wore those hiking boots, I didn't know that my heels would like chafe pretty much. So I had raw heels by the time I made it up there, which really, really hurt. So every step was painful at that point. When I got to the 16 golden steps toward the end, which is a bunch of switchbacks, it felt so tiresome. But when I saw those clouds getting dark, I knew I had to hurry, because when you're up on top of a mountain, you could be vulnerable to lightning strikes, because lightning strikes the highest point. So if you're at the top of the mountain and you're in an exposed area, there's no trees or anything else. So sometimes the lightning strikes the rocks. There's another trail that's a lot shorter that people take sometimes to get up to Pikes Peak called Devil's Playground, and they call it that because the lightning is seen to like strike rocks more often in that area, and it's almost as if the devil's playing around there. So I was really not trying to get struck by lightning. And then ravens, I've said this before on my other channel, I feel like I have a connection to them. It was crazy because I was getting so fatigued and I knew I was almost there, but there's a lot of false summits when you're climbing where it looks like you're almost to the top, but then there's like a whole few switchbacks where you're not yet. But you could see the peak, like I could see the visitor center, which is the other thing. It's bittersweet because if you go on a climb where there's no visitor center, then it's less crowded, it's less touristy. By the time I got up there, I felt like, leave me alone, this is too much noise. You're by people that are all fresh and clean because they drove up or took the cog up. I'm drenched in sweat. I just want to take a shower and lay down. It was so noisy. I know they have famous donuts there. I didn't even have time to try one because we were trying to think about taking the train back down. And after a long hike, my stomach sometimes doesn't want a donut. That's just me though. But I would love to try their donuts next time. But it was a cool experience. It definitely changes my perspective. It makes me want to chase more summits and peaks, as well as go on more endurance hikes. I love the challenge of suffering and then having the reward at the end. I could apply it to so many things in life. It encourages me with no matter what situation I do. If I'm capable of climbing a summit of 14,000 feet or making it up a mountain, I can do anything. I'd like to do more technical hikes, but I'm definitely going to the rock climbing gym to learn better scrambling techniques, as well as I would like to do peaks where they're super technical to the point where I need to learn glacier travel and ice picks, which is something I can do in the long run. But that was my experience. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for rambling on so much, but I just wanted to share it with you guys because I said on my other channel I would, and I hope you found this informative and interesting. Let me know if you've done Pikes Peak via Barr Trail, or if you're planning on doing it, or you know someone who's done it. Thank you again for listening. Take care until next time.